Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. We've got Bitcoin moving back past 120K. You've got ETH looking strong at 4.2K, and Hype is surging again, up around 6% to $45. Creator platform on base, Zora, is up 45% in a day to 1.3 billion. Things are ripping across the board. Pump is up 10% as well towards 3.4 billion. Remember, that's the buy-in price for all the investors was 4 bill in the most recent ICO. So that is edging closer to that point as it retakes the lead in the launchpad wars. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, and a general discussion on what we think is going on in the rest of the market. So stay tuned for that. I've got Legendary in the co-host seat with me today. We're ready to get into it, but just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is very, very risky. We do not know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it's Monday. It's the 11th of August. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Jim, unsurprisingly, I am in a fantastic mood, with markets being that green, that beautiful, with a realistic chance for SBET pushing back up. I think it's up to 27 or so, at least on the pre-market when I checked this morning. 25.6 now, it's up 7.5%. The pre-market was up 12%. So if this is going to be a good week for ETH, I'll be back in the green with my SBET position, which I traded in a very ridiculous way. So I'm very happy about that redemption arc.
I think one of the things I realized, if I'm given access to a mobile wallet, I will press buy and sell way more than I ever would otherwise. Like the way I was trading with SBET in my stocks account was so ridiculous. Okay, obviously it was quite volatile at the time, but I have not built up the strategy or behavior or routine of like trading on mobile. I did it a little bit with some Solana wallets when that was kind of going a bit, was quite profitable, but it's not something. It's like it's not part of my routine. I don't really trade in that way, and I just recognized like I'm being kind of ridiculous here because it was a bit volatile, but even still, I was definitely not attuned to that. Have you ever thought about that, of like your behaviors and patterns getting disrupted by being able to trade in a different mode in a way?
Of course, yeah. And ever since I started using, which I shouldn't do, I started using some of my hardware wallets on mobile as well, and using the Ledger on mobile. It is very incentivized. It's incentivizing you very strongly to trade more on the go as well, which is not always the best thing.
It's worth thinking about, isn't it? Yeah, it's definitely something I was reflecting on. How I was just doing like dumb stuff just by over clicking. And in principle, that's not the type of investor I am. Not that I don't do dumb stuff sometimes, but like, I'm not like hyper short time frame stuff. I know some people choose to trade in that way, but definitely got to build better routines on the mobile side. What about you? What's going on otherwise? How's the weekend? How are you? You said it was it's looking, market's pretty nice out of the back of this weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Weekend was fantastic because it did fulfill a childhood dream of mine. I shared the pictures in the Telegram chat already, which is to do with the starter Pokemon from the base set. Graded, Shadowless, Charizard, Venusaur, Blastoise, all of them graded as PSA 7s. Really, really beautiful condition. And again, the Shadowless one. So for those who don't know, that's basically the misprint where the illustration on the card didn't have like a black shadow border, which is pretty rare as well. And I did buy that on the weekend and was very, very happy because I never was able to have these starter shiny ones, shiny cards as a kid, because they were like way too expensive back then, even for me.
It's pretty fun.
Yep.
That's pretty fun. Very nice. I think I've always told people that for whatever reason, everyone I know in this industry who does well is some kind of physical card collector, RPG gamer or something. I was not interested in any of it at all, ever. I didn't like it. Thought it was boring. I didn't like any of the games. I just played sport, and I thought that was a fun game. But anything that wasn't like real sport, even video games, it was just like, okay, cool. I'll play one game, but then I'm basically done. So different ways to find success in the industry in the end, I think. Final quick kind of catch up commentary here, Ledge. It is cool that you got that shared in the Telegram. What's the status on? Look, we have a lot of people who are asking for invites to get in. We did say we're getting as many people in as we can. We don't want to get flagged by Twitter by spamming the link to back message requests. How many more do we have to get through, do you think? And when do you think we're going to get through those?
A couple dozen. I had a warning over the weekend from X where I basically wasn't able to send messages for a brief bit. So I was like, maybe it's my internet acting up. Maybe I need to slow down a bit. Did send out a batch earlier today. I think if we won't get flooded with new requests, we should be done by like Wednesday or so.
Okay. That's good. Good stuff. We want as many of our loyal listeners in there as possible. It's going really nicely. I'm enjoying the conversation we're having. We've got a bunch of different channels for people to help to navigate the various things that we're up to in space and what we think are exciting opportunities. So going very, very nicely. We're on 99 members. One more for the 100th member. I wonder who that will be. We will announce it tomorrow, I hope, on the show. Look, let's get into it. We've got a lot to talk about. Market is green, a lot of opportunities. Things are really starting to run. So let's get people up to speed with what they need to know before we then get into the main headlines themselves. So Bitcoin is up a couple of percent to $121,000. We've got ETH flat at 4,200, but that's up 20% on the week. Do not forget. XRP is up a couple of percent as well to $3.20, up 8% on the week. BNB is flat at 805, also up 6% on the week. Solana is up a percent to 180. That's still up 10% on the week. Then we move down to things like Hyperliquid is up 5% on the day to $45, also up 20% on the week. That really dipped down, didn't it? Hyperliquid down to around $35, $36 or so. So actually on in the last 7 days, I know ETH has outperformed a bit bigger on a slightly longer time frame, but in the last week, Hyperliquid has been as productive. And Sui has actually kind of slipped back here, $3.80 flat, still up 10% on the week though. Ledge, did you want to say something there?
You gotta mention Chainlink. Chainlink had a 30% run on the week and did squeeze in between Hyperliquid, Stellar, and Sui, and is now the 12th largest currency with that very, very recent pump. It's also up 40% over the month, doubled up over the year. So definitely some Chainlink action there.
Yeah, definitely some Chainlink action. I saw a lot of people become Link Marines over the weekend, which I think is the affectionate term. Were you ever a Link Marine, Legendary?
Of course I was, yeah.
You were a Link Marine.
Yeah.
I've never been a Link Marine. I don't see the appeal. Dude, is that something we need to become for the rest of the summer?
I don't have a Link position anymore, and I don't aspire to buy into it now because I'm completely out of tune with that. So I'm very happy to be.
But do you want to be a Marine?
No.
Oh, okay. Because if you did, then you would have to buy some Chainlink. Okay, so we don't want to be Link Marines necessarily, although maybe I don't know. I'm kind of tempted. Sounds kind of fun to me to jump on the bandwagon, but no immediate position there. Getting into that was one thing that's done 30%, but we've got to talk about a bunch of other things that are moving fast as well, and why we think that is. On the meme coin side of things, first though, Doge is flat. Pepe's more or less flat. Pengu's back up to around 4 cents, which is about 3.4 bill. Bonk is up a few percent as well. Pump, this is a big one. Pump is up 15%, back to 3.6 billion FDV. So that's really, really moved. And we'll talk about that a little bit later with some data. Pump has really, going back and forth with Bonk as the market, as the launch pad for launching meme tokens on Solana. And Pump has really kind of cruised back into control with major dominance there. Filecoin's down 5%, still stuck at $1 or so. WIF is around the same price. Rect is flat, Mog is flat. So it seems like things have cooled a little bit on the meme coin side of things. Troll's actually down 8% after a 133% rise in the last week. So Troll we spoke about as one of the ones that really moved big, as kind of an OG meme. Another one to shout out on the virtual side, Tibber is up 6%. That's up 50% on the week as well. Just in some other price action, because I know there've just been other tokens moving as well. In fact, maybe this will come up as part of the snapshot in just 1 second. I think the things to bring up are kind of things like, here we go. Things like, where are we? Price action. Things like Layer Zero up 25% to 2.4 bill after announcing it's going to do a $110 million acquisition of Stargate Bridge. Athena, Athena's token, which is ENA, is up 11% to 12 bill after Athena goes past $10 billion in its synthetic stablecoin supply. So there's, and you know, one of the other main headlines today is Zora up 45% on the day to 1.3 billion. So there's just a lot of tokens like really breaking out at the moment. So we'll be talking about all of those things. We're going to talk about the majors. We're going to talk about what's going on in Zora in particular, and then we'll talk about Pump and what we think the potential is there. Ledge, is there anything on the NFT side that we need to keep on top of as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at the majors. Over the last 7 days, we have actually more movement than over the last 24. We have a good week for Bored Apes, up 14%. Pudgy's up 7% over the last week. Little Pudgies and Mutants also following, obviously, the main collections, being up 13 and 9.7% respectively over the last week. That is, over the last 24 days, basically everything is like up a touch from these collections, between 1 and 4%. Azukis, however, are flat on the day, up beautifully, up 16% on the week. But also important to note that ETH is up 20% on the week. So basically all of these collections are, in essence, underperforming ETH over the last 7 days. But they are not falling against ETH. So it does mean that people are happy to hold these leveraged bets on ETH while ETH is going up. And the other thing we probably have to mention is the Nakamigos situation. Nakamigos are up 32% on the week, are down 44% over the last 24 hours. They had a massive run up and then corrected down, and that is to do with the whole, I don't want to call it news, with the whole Beeple situation where basically, I don't even know what it was. Do you know, was it a joke? Was it trolling? Where this daily got posted, and with Nakamigos being labeled as the V0 CryptoPunks, a lot of KOLs getting into that and basically have caused a pump and dump, which is not the first time that we've seen that specifically in the Nakamigos collection.
I mean, I think there was this video that got circulated on the at Beeple's event where it was suggested that Nakamigos are the real V0 of CryptoPunks. You know, because you have the main CryptoPunk collection is a V2 collection. V1 is the one that some people will say, look, these are the real ones. They kind of got abandoned for V2, although they are kind of official in a way. They're just not the officially recognized 10K collection. And then, you know, there was this joke that Nakamigos were the real V0, and they had the Lava Labs founders, the people who created CryptoPunks, have in this like joke video say that, you know, they weren't sure if the world were ready for, I don't know, I think they made a joke that it was like too sophisticated for people at the time, and that's why Nakamigos like was not put out. I don't know, like I thought it was quite clearly a joke, and therefore people should really not be doing anything on that. I also think it's like kind of a risky joke where everyone is kind of aware how trigger happy people are in this industry. And I don't know, it's a risk I wouldn't take, for example. Like, do I think it's reasonable to think that if I were, you know, maybe not us specifically, but if we were in their shoes, would I think if I make this joke, will people lose money? because people are going to speculate? I think the answer to that question is yes. Like that's what I would think, and therefore I think it's like kind of an irresponsible joke. But then you can't. But then I'm also always on the side of like, guys, take a responsibility for the buttons you click. So I'm not. I'm always on that side too. Would I have made the joke? No. Do I think that people should be complaining? Also, no. That's my kind of position. What do you think?
100% agree with that. And if I were to catch that live, I would probably have traded that because, as you said, people are clicking happy. The question becomes, when do you exit that? But nothing really to that because I share your point of view 100%.
Okay. Well, that is convenient that we do. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I hope people didn't lose much money on that. If they did, but if you did, it's okay. We're in a bull market. Time to make it back somehow. Okay, the rest. Let's get into the rest of the roundup to get you up to speed. We've got Trump's World Liberty by DeFi project seeking to raise an additional 1.5 billion for publicly traded treasury company. Remind us, we need to touch on this and just need to ask ourselves the question, like, what do we need to do here to align with Trump's DeFi project? So let's come back to that in a second. We also had the White House Crypto Council lead Bo Hines leaving his role to return to the public sector. My understanding is sometimes these governmental roles are not forever, and like a little bit of rotation is expected, although I don't know if this was as expected as Elon leaving, for example. Anyway, I think he did a good job helping David Sachs get some of the crypto stuff moving and the AI stuff. CEA Industries purchased $160 million of BNB. I believe their initial raise is for $500 million worth as part of their private placement to operate the BNB treasury company. Blockchain developer claims to be prosecuted in Turkey for misuse of Ethereum. This is someone prominent on Twitter kind of complaining about his treatment in Turkey for misuse of Ethereum. It's a strange charge to levy at someone legendary. I wonder if anyone would argue you have misused Ethereum at any point. What would you say to that? Have you ever misused Ethereum? Would you ever be so cruel?
If you dump Ethereum, sell it, and post in a bearish way about that, that's misusing Ethereum.
This is a misuse. An illegal use of Ethereum is to have sold the lows. I'm sure there are some guilty listeners here. Harvard reveals $117 million in BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. I really like that news. Really, really like that news when like very conservative institutions are like piling in to a Bitcoin ETF. Love that news.
Especially with Harvard having a hard time with President Donald Trump and some of his policies. And obviously, from the university's perspective, is like, you could be like, no, I don't want to participate in BTC. I don't want to buy that because we have all these issues with President Donald Trump. And they're like saying, nah, nonetheless, we actually want to have Bitcoin that much that we're willing to put this aside for a moment and still get into that digital asset.
Do you know what would be the perfect way to end the unhappiness or the rancor between them?
Buy World Liberty Fi tokens?
Yes. How did you know that was the answer?
It's a good answer.
When they're looking to raise $1.5 billion for a publicly traded treasury company, Harvard comes out and says they will take a few $100 million to kind of fund that, and then their problems go away. How about that for the future of finance? Let's see. We'll see if that comes true. Final bit of news. Infinex reveals season 1 Yap Run winners, with top spots earning $20,000 to $30,000 each. That was a big one. There was a little bit of unhappiness. A lot of smaller accounts got completely nuked. The reason for that the team gave was that it was very, very hard to distinguish between bot accounts and small accounts, and a lot of the stuff was getting botted. So I know some people were very unhappy with that. I think it is unfortunate. I believe for smaller accounts, the second season, which will still be a ton of money, right? Like at the moment, at these valuations of the Infinex, they're still going to be giving a very large season 2, although it is not coming out immediately. Smaller accounts are going to need to apply and be accepted, which is, obviously a very big difference compared to what was allowed the first time. They want to get rid of all the AI slop, all of the, the aggressive farming in order to try to incentivize quality over quantity. So I think that is super interesting from the Kaito perspective, and also as part of the metric, so people know. It was not only just what you are tweeting on the timeline. It was also taking into account your referrals, also taking into account your on-chain activity on Infinex. So there's a bunch more factors to it. It's not as simple as yap about this and get given loads of money. There's more things being taken into consideration as the process of distributing rewards to your community, I think, is evolving into something more targeted. So I think that was interesting, Ledge. Before we get into the main stuff then, opening it up to you, what would you want to touch on here before we expand?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, congrats to you. You are in the 4th spot. That is beautiful to see. Also, congrats to AI Bra in the 3rd spot, who is a listener of the show, to the best of my knowledge. Also very active in the YouTube comments sometimes. So that is also very, very nice to see. The other thing I did want to comment on is, where is it? Yeah, that the Bo Hines piece of news. Do you know, was it basically a contract that expired? Was it under the same stipulation as Elon, who's like only allowed to work in that role for a certain amount of days a year? The reason I'm asking this is because there's been a couple voices on the timeline, including DeFarmer, very well-known trader, who was saying like either this is a massively negative news because something had happened, or this is massively bullish, or it's a nothing burger. I mean, obviously, these are the 3 scenarios. But yeah, I was curious to see if you have any more color on this or any more thoughts on this.
So my understanding is it is not the same. I think he could have stayed if he wanted to. It's clearly a different opportunity that has become available. That's my understanding. My read of it, because sometimes I'm quite pro conspiracy. Sometimes if there's something to conspire about, I'm quite open to it. 7 or 8 times out of 10. Personally, this one, I don't see a great deal in it. I think he's done a good job in the part that he's, in the direction that he's gone. And I think the revolving door between government and private industry is actually revolving quite a lot. And so, it's probably quite common for people to be in and out and move around between these places, especially if they're doing a good job. So personally, I'm not reading too much into this one, although who knows? I definitely don't. I'm certainly not an expert in that specific that part.
Yeah, fair enough. I also don't have anything to add on that. And then the other thing I did want to touch on is exactly what you had mentioned. Trump World's Libertyfy seeking 1.5 bill for that raise. And what do we make of it? How do we position ourselves? I did give this a bit of a thought. I think, given the fact that they like BTC, they like ETH very much, that's still the tickers that Eric Trump is posting. I'm very happy to stay on that side of things and on that side of my betting, because obviously both of these tokens have a large narrative that I am familiar with. So I, at the moment, don't have any inclination of getting some World Libertyfy tokens. What about yourself?
I would like to. And wait, just one sec on the Eric Trump stuff. Just just to reflect on some of these tweets that he's been putting out over the last week. August the 8th. It puts a smile on my face to see ETH shorts getting smoked today. Stop betting against Bitcoin and ETH. You will be run over. August the 2nd. Let me say it again. Buy the dips, Bitcoin and ETH. So this is good bull posting.
I see us comment on that. He says, Eric, the last time you did this, we all almost literally died.
Yes. We had to wait a little bit before the price kind of caught up. So look, to that point, we the bull posting is there for sure. But the thing I wanted to check and I just wanted to bring to people's attention because I think what's happened with World Liberty Fi is something like this. I actually have a friend there, so I might reach out and ask what can we do? What can we do to figure out what we need to do for this? I think what's happened with World Liberty Fi a little bit is people saw the Trump token at the top of the year, right? That basically kind of tanked all the markets. And then I can't remember the order of things happening, whether World Liberty Fi was before or after, but there was actually a lot of skepticism at that point in time around Trump's involvement in crypto, and maybe there still is, to be fair, and maybe some of it's even justified. But there was definitely a period of time where they couldn't even raise, right? They were not able to raise. They did a public sale. Like, you can invest in World Liberty Fi if you want to. This was before any of the stuff was concrete, before Bitcoin had ripped as high as it has done under their kind of stewardship. And I think there was just a lot of skepticism if they would like pull through on half the things that they've said. And they couldn't raise the money. Justin Sun obviously came in and helped out a lot with raising that initial public raise. And I think what's just happened is that over time, they've committed more and more and more and more time and resource to crypto. If you think about it, Trump media has also, I believe, started to raise to run the Bitcoin treasury play as well. Or maybe they've even bought their amount. I can't remember how much it was. I think it was $2 billion. Ledge, I don't know if you're able to pull that up while I continue my thought. So the family / the administration have just like continuously double down on this idea. And it's not just them, by the way. You have Scott Bessent coming out, constantly putting out videos that we are going big on digital assets. You've had Lutnick saying things that are similar. And so I think over time, the World Liberty Fi thing has kind of become more and more attractive from the perspective that they're betting on this. Like, this is like a huge bet. I don't know if it's a huge bet for them, but it's definitely something which they've kind of backed up a little bit over the last 6 to 7 to 8 months now, where they've shown that, okay, they're not, although we don't have a Bitcoin reserve, which is like, I guess one of the question marks still, like, how are you going to buy Bitcoin in a budget neutral way? Still not answered that question. But they followed through on a lot of the stablecoin stuff and done a bunch of other stuff to really push prices up. And the 401k thing, I think, is really big to allow crypto or people's money to flow into crypto and other things as well. So it's definitely become a thing where you probably want to try to bet on this if you can. And just on the so this was 4 days ago on the official World Liberty Fi Twitter account, a tweet from Mexi. Mexi is proud to support the USD1 points program, the world's first global stablecoin loyalty program at World Liberty Fi. Trade, hold, and stake USD1 on Mexi, earn points, and unlock exclusive rewards. More perks coming soon. And then you have USD1 points program will be on KuCoin, Mexi, and LBank exchange soon. Follow World Liberty Fi on these platforms for details of the launch timing. So look, this seems to be one way to get some exposure. I haven't like evaluated it fully, but it might be worth having a little bit in USD1, which is their stablecoin. I'm pretty sure that would be something I'm going to try to do if I'm eligible in whatever way. So that's my initial thought. I obviously spoke for a while here, Ledge. What are your thoughts in response, and what do you think of these kind of early opportunities, or is there a different way to get deeper exposure?
Yeah, first of all, to your question, the Trump media and the Bitcoin holdings, so the 2 billion number that you said, it is correct, and also as part of their Q2 earnings that they filed, it did show that they already had purchased that amount in both BTC and BTC related securities, so they already do have that treasury in place. In terms of their stablecoin, that is probably something I would like more as a play. If I did stable take some stable up, that sounds like so bearish. I did take some profits last week into stables, which I put to work. on use Felix, on Hype EVM for 15% yield, which I quite like. But having a go at their stablecoin and seeing, maybe not Mexi for me, but maybe seeing if there's like other options to use that on chain and not necessarily in a centralized exchange, that is something that I hadn't thought about because I just didn't know that this was a thing. I didn't know the stablecoin exists, but I didn't know that there was like incentivized programs like the one you just mentioned. So that I will take a look at and see if there's anything on chain to do as well, because I could see myself doing that.
Okay. Thought it'd be helpful to at least explore that initially. That was like a live exploration, though. We have not dived into that. I think we will double click there. That's part of what the show is for. Uncover interesting things that we think are interesting. Then maybe we can take it offline, talk in Telegram, and maybe we'll share any deeper thoughts there, and also on the show when we get to it. So glad we got into that. Just before we get into the rest of the stuff, Ledge, we just wanted to bring up, we're going to do the headlines in just one moment. We just wanted to bring up our latest partnership, which we wanted to let people know about. We're super excited about this. It's one of a number of partnerships we are going live with now, although there are more coming as we rebrand. People might not know that. There's a huge amount of work we've been doing in the background, getting ready for September, which is when we're going to be hitting the ground running with like a whole new vibe for the show. But wanted to give you a chance to speak to that first, Nudge.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is our partnership with Yeet. Yeet is the online casino by Mando, KBM being Keyboard Monkey, the legendary trader, as well as Ben Lam, the poker player. It's a casino that I've been taking quite a bit of volume to, I would say. And they've been growing very, very fast. Like they recently reached 365M in wagered volume on their site within just a bit more than 100 days or so, which is utterly insane to think about the fact that a platform like Stake took 3 years to get there, to get to 100 mil, sorry. A platform like Shuffle took 8 months to get to the first 100M. He did that within basically a month or so. And one thing that I am excited about as part of this partnership is that we will be giving away a couple $1,000s a month to our listeners, to our watchers as well. And that is something that I'm looking forward to be able to do on show. Like I'm not going to turn into a gambling streamer. Being able to give away that throughout the show will be a fun thing to do. And for everyone who wants to be eligible for that, what you need to do is to sign up to Yeet with our referral code. I'll post it in the YouTube comments, in the X comments in a second once I'm done talking. Play whatever games you are comfortable to play. Obviously, do that in a responsible way. Don't forget that the casino has an edge against you, so it is. There is a higher likelihood that you lose money than that you make money. So please do keep that in mind. And then we will be picking winners on the shows in the coming weeks.
Indeed. Really excited. As you said, Mando is a legend, known Mando for a long time. KBM and Ben are pretty elite at what they do too. So excited to partner with them. As you said, if you want to participate, we're going to be figuring out like the way we distribute it. We're going to do the first distribution one day this week, hopefully sooner rather than later, which means you will need to sign up with the link that Legendary is sharing in the various places now. And then we know who signed up, and then we can like pick from there when that is done. So looking forward to that. Glad we've managed to get that opportunity for people and give away some cash to our loyal listeners. Right. Really excited about that. Let's get into the main stuff for today. Next, we've got a bunch of stuff really moving. Ledge, I think what we're going to start off here with is just a general update from you. You've got Bitcoin shooting past 120. You've got ETH really strong at 4.2. Hype back towards the 45, 46 region. What do we need to know here? What's going on in the majors? How are you thinking about things? What's the analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. Given the fact that we're like 40 minutes into the show, I want to do it in two parts. First of which is a summary, and we did cover most of these things last week, but I think it's still important to put these elements all together to just understand how important last week was of the things that happened. We had the executive order signed last week by President Donald Trump that allows crypto and alternative assets to be part of 401ks. I did have a longer discussion on that also on the show on Friday, where Matthew did join us and did explain some more of the significance of that. We have SEC and Ripple ending the legal battle that is after 5 years of this legal fight going on. We have another executive order by Donald Trump that explicitly says that banks have to stop discriminating against crypto, amongst other things. The Harvard news, which you just had as a part of the roundup, and additionally, we had obviously the last weeks with the Q2 earnings by the S&P 500 companies. We did talk on the fact how many of the tech companies did outperform. But I think it's also important to say that it's not only the tech companies who have been outperforming, because 82% of S&P 500 companies did beat the earning estimates, and that is despite the tariff situation. So the American economy, from the standpoint of the S&P 500, from the standpoint of the quarterly earnings, has had quite a beautiful surprise, quite a beautiful outcome there. And the second thing that I want to do is to go to two of my favorite markets on Polymarket. Unsurprisingly, that is, what price will Ethereum hit in August? A market with $4.7 million in volume, just to get a sense of where we think this might go. So currently ETH trades, as we said, at 4.2K. So unsurprisingly, 77% of the market think we'll see 4.4, 53% think we'll see 4.6, and still 27%, it's a bit less than a third, but still a significant number, think you're going to see 5K ETH in August, which I think would be a very significant number to hit, A, because it's a new all-time high, and B, because it's also a psychological milestone. And then the second market I want to look at is the exact same thing. What price will Bitcoin hit in August? This one has $7.4 million in volume. So BTC is currently trading, let me check, at 120.7K. 65% think we're going to see 125K. A third thinks we're going to see 130,000, and 14%, so a bit more than an eighth, think that we're going to see 135,000 BTC in August.
Okay. What's your view? Where do you think where do you think we kind of move here?
That's a fantastic question, and my price predictions are horrible when they have a date with them. I said on Rahim's question, what did I say? ETH at 4K at the end of the year. I don't know where we're going. I'm comfy to have my spot bags. I think we will do well. I don't think that the stock market is looking negatively this week. I don't think that we have like any sort of tariff or other news that are impacting us. The pre-market looks okay. Everything is up or flat on the Dow, S&P 500, Nasdaq futures. So yeah, I'm happy to hold, but I don't have a specific price target in mind.
This is what I'm thinking. We spoke about this a little bit the other day. I think we had a long call on Saturday, didn't we? Just catching up. And I think there's a reasonable chance we are entirely front running the move that everyone would love to see in September when you get the rate cut. Like, obviously in the last FOMC meeting, for which like there will not be another one until September, although there is this Jackson Hole meeting coming up, which Powell has historically used as like a time to signal to the market that things might be changing. I think there's a reasonable chance we're front running what everyone seems to think, the inevitable cut. And so I don't have like a high confidence in this, because in the same way, I'm kind of like a medium term, to the extent that I'm the proportion of my portfolio which is pure trading. I'm kind of like a medium term, 3-month ish zone analyst, and I feel like there's certain things I'm just going to hold anyway. But there's a part of me that wants to take I want a clip out of things this month, pre-rate cut announcement. I think that will be a little bit of a sell the news event. I just think we've moved so high so rapidly with the anticipation of that, and I think it's perfectly set up to not rip on the actual day because we're ripping before, like over and over again. That does not mean that I think the top is in at just at that pre-point. I think we go down, but then I think we're setting up to go higher, medium to longer term. That would be my analysis based on pure kind of intuition and like a 3-month-ish horizon. So it's like kind of very bullish the next couple of weeks, then a little bit bearish because I think people have been obsessed over this cuts. Like people are harassing Powell all the time. Like, will you cut? Will you like? There's already hysteria around this damn cut, like complete hysteria. So then I think that like September will be less good as expected because, if they do cut, I don't think it'll, everyone's already been talking about it. And then we kind of find a level from which we're ready to go higher because ultimately we have cut and then things can move. So I think I'm kind of very bullish. I think things can really run now on the hysteria for a couple of weeks potentially. Or, I mean, that's what's happening. You look at all these charts, everything's just going insane, which we'll touch on again in a second. But that's my thought. What do you think, Ledge?
I like the thinking, and it's good that you brought our conversation on the weekend up. Maybe the first rate cut is sort of priced in. Currently on Polymarket, just to get these stats as well, 70% chance of a 25 pips decrease, 7% chance of a 50 pips decrease in September. So that is 84% of the market, which is betting on a rate cut currently. The question then becomes, though, even if the first rate cut is priced in, is the second one priced in? That's
Everything's
probably
priced in.
No, but that's probably where your argument or your thesis is coming from, that maybe we price in the first one. So once it actually happens, we won't run too much on that. But then in the mid to long term, on this like 3 to 6 month horizon, you're still bullish because we might see more than one in that time frame.
Yeah, exactly. I just think we're in a bit of hysteria right now. We're in hysteria about the cuts. Like if you honestly ask yourself the question, have people gone hysterical about this cut? I think the answer to that question is yes. And so that's why I think it's kind of like hyper short-term bullish, as we are literally seeing in the charts right now with everything really moving. And then I think cool whenever we get the cut, look, maybe we don't get it in September and then maybe they refuse to still, but my bet would be that changes. And then we get to a position where, okay, we've digested the news that we had expected to come. Now we can go higher. I think that would be my expectation for the rest of the presidency. I really like thinking in terms of like the political things, and I want to get the the midterm dates and all of those things when I start to think slightly more long term once September comes around as well. But anyway, we mentioned, so that's some initial thoughts there. We also mentioned that some other things were really moving. So maybe we've got 10 minutes left of the show, Ledge. I'll do a little bit on base. I'll touch on Athena as well, and then maybe you can just do pump, and we'll just do these back to back. In the end, the headlines here is just that things are really moving. So the creator platform base on Zora is up 45% to 1.3 billion. This was as low as like 200, like 2 weeks ago. Like if you look at this chart, it's insane that remember it released not long ago. It was against the backdrop of Jesse from Base trying to really encourage people to coin content, coin everything. Don't worry about it. There was a lot of pushback, and the coin was just sold off entirely. Anyone who received it as an airdrop, it seemed like they just were pressing the sell button, dropped down to at least as low as 200 mil, and has, they've just released the Base app, which I think Zora is integrated in. And like part of the thesis here, and we've got this article from Wagme Alexander, who's I think the CEO at Aerodrome. Aerodrome's the prominent, the dominant DEX on Base, talking about the opportunity in this market, saying, let's just be clear on the opportunity represented by socials. You able to share this one, or shall I? Oh, you're not sure where? I've got it here, don't worry. Stop share. Hang on. Here we go. So we've got this is obviously a social opportunity. So Facebook's 1 trillion market cap, YouTube 500 billion valuation, TikTok's 300 billion valuation. And he says these platforms, built almost entirely off extracting value from their users and creators, rival the literal entirety of our industry in valuation terms and absolutely dwarf us in terms of adoption, users, and revenue generation. Capturing even marginal amounts of their markets would mean an order of magnitude increases in size and scale of the on-chain economy. So they say they are ripe for disruption and their margin can be our opportunity. So they've definitely done a good job in framing what the opportunity is. I do think it's kind of interesting that for all of the criticism that I believe was justified around like the creator coin stuff, I do actually think it's way better if that all happens on a different app, and somehow keeping it off Twitter makes me feel more comfortable with it. I think also this has been very, very much supported by Base themselves, whether that's Base or Coinbase together. You have to take that into account. I think it's built by a former Coinbase founder. And so all of this is relevant. They've done a good job in framing it and the kind of target market they're going for. And that I do think increases the potential valuation. There's also this other initiative that is happening at the same time. 3 days ago, the Base app tweeted that with creator rewards, the top 3,000 creators in the Base app will get rewarded in USDC every week automatically. You don't have to apply or hit a minimum number of followers, just post. So that is this here, which I'm sharing on screen as well. I think it's an interesting opportunity. I have not been a huge, I really liked Zora when it was just like mint the NFT and do it like that. There was a time where you kind of have a collectible NFT, just a couple of dollars, and that would be the way that your fans supported you. I much preferred that model. I don't like the coins and turning everything into a coin. I still don't like it. I like the idea of a Web2 like being a Web3 mint. Really, really like that idea. So I don't like the change, but I do think I agree in that the opportunity exists. And for that, the valuation could be higher. And with the amount of support that they've got from the people running Base, I would have loved to have picked up some Zora on a pullback. And actually, I want to download the app and figure out how things are working there. So there is an opportunity here moving forward from a creator perspective in Web3. And I just want to play around with it basically. But I'm curious for your thoughts, Ledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a valid point in wanting to move things off X. I feel like apart from the AI tech crypto bubble, people in the real world, and we said it many times in the show, don't really like X. They think it's a toxic place to be. They don't like that they receive pushback on whatever they are posting. And quite frankly, it can be quite toxic at times. But nonetheless, it is super difficult to build something outside of this ecosystem where basically all of the crypto attention and money is congregating and aggregating. And I understand the thesis behind that. Price action obviously is looking very, very good at the moment, but I also think it needs an incredible amount of support by Coinbase to sustain that and to keep it alive. And now they also need to, as you said, to put creator rewards into that. They did send out 12K last Friday to people showing up creating in the Base app. So you need to align all of these incentives and get people to do things. But quite frankly, everyone is doing that, right? Pump Fun is doing the same thing with streamer rewards, and they are paying out. I looked at some of the stats. I think gains he made around like 9K, Rasmer, I don't know, 12, 13K, 17K for the super based creator house. So they are doing the very same thing and trying to incentivize creators. Cato turned that obviously into a business. So yeah, I understand the thesis, but I also have to say everything that is being built outside of X and tries to be its own independent layer is a massive, massive challenge. It's as big as a challenge as it gets.
True. That's a very good point, and a good point that if you're in that social game, remember it was Pump Fund's memo not long ago when they came out with, the token, or they were raising for the token. They said they want to kill Facebook. They want to kill traditional social media. So they are in that game too, and they've got a humongous war chest, and I guess a valued 3 times what Zora is as things stand. Although, obviously they've got a very different product, different vibe, different brand, but they are in essence in the same game because that's where the founder wants to be. So interesting that you brought that into the conversation. I appreciate that. But actually, given that that's the next headline, Ledge, what else do you want to tell us about Pump, which is having a bit of a resurgence here?
Yeah, absolutely. If we take a look at the Dune Analytics dashboard for Pump, and this is a screenshot that has been shared all over the timeline, has been discussed, is that the weekly graduation rate, which is here on screen, is suddenly up from basically 0.6, 0.75%, where it was over the last couple of weeks, to 3.18%. That is a bit skewed. Yes, it is trending up, but it's a fresh week. The week just started on Monday. And as a result of that, because we only have one day in the week, this is a bit of a skewed metric. So the 3% are not accurate. We will have to wait for the week to finish to see what that number actually is. But what certainly is happening, that we're seeing more tokens graduating. We're seeing that the streamers are going at it. We've seen a bit of an increase in volume as well. We've also seen, let me get it up, an increase in daily active wallets, which have trended down, but over the last week are both recurring wallets as well as new wallets have seen a significant spike. So Alon, the Pump Fund founder, has posted some point on the weekend that they will be running back the trenches on Pump Fund in the way that they existed in Q4 of 2024. So there is some activity flowing back. There is an increase in graduation rate. There is obviously a token buybacks happening, and the token has had a good run, but it's still under the 4 billion mark where it was sold at. As to the question, how much of that is happening in an organic way and how much of that is being pushed by the team, that is, to me, impossible to answer at the moment. But I think it's not a surprise that all of the teams, that's not only Pump Fund specifically, but all of the launchpads have this incentive to make these numbers look good, because ultimately people will look at those dashboards and will report on market share based on volume, based on the active wallets, based on the graduation rates. So there's clearly a massive war chest as well as a strong incentive to help your own numbers. And that's not only to do with Pump Fund, but with all these launchpads.
Excellent summary. Yes. What do you think? Do you think I personally feel like we've moved on from the trenches in the way that they existed in November, December, January last year. I also think that if you throw enough money at anything in this industry, like, sure, you can bring it back, but I feel like the things that you're competing with are much stronger now, given that the regulatory environment has changed, which allows other companies to make their tokens into more robust, investable assets. And we are no longer in the environment where all coins are VC scam coins and they just go down and therefore they're pointless to own. Like this week, in fact, in the last 24 hours, if you didn't want to buy Pump, you could have bought ENA, the token issued by Athena, which is a VC coin, to be fair, and you do have to keep an eye on the unlocks. But that is up. Let's see how much it's up on the week. It's up 6% today, to a $11.8 billion FDV. It is up 17% on the 2 weeks, and it's up 132% in the last month. Like, this is a $10 billion synthetic stablecoin. And when I say $10 billion, like that's the amount of supply that they've managed to achieve. Is the third largest, inverted commas, stablecoin on the market. And you could have doubled your money buying that in the last 30 days. So we're in a type of market which, I think you can kind of buy anything at the moment, frankly, and it go up, which again makes it harder for you to need to go deep into the trenches. But B, you're in an environment where there's a lot more investable assets now. Hyperliquid didn't exist before. This immaculately conceived coin who buy back 97% of their token are making $2 million a day. I looked at DeFi Llama this morning. $2 million a day. That's how much money they make. It's insane. Pump, to be fair, is still making $1 million a day as well. So that's excellent. But there are just more investable assets, even if there are loads more nonsensical ones too. What do you think, Ledge? Are we able to go back to that environment for the trenches, or what are you going to do personally?
I don't want to go back into the trenches. I had a
too old.
I had a very good run with that in Q4. My new trenches are stocks. It was the Circle trade for me, the Hood trade, SBET, the upcoming IPOs. That's the stuff that I'm interested in. It's also the stuff that I feel like the typical participants on CT are not really interested in or covering. And as you said, there's like bigger plays to be made at the moment. And the challenge still becomes or is to beat either BTC, ETH in terms of relative performance. And as you said, with ENA, you would have done that. You would have
you could have bought ETH and be up like
I mean, you would have been better. You would have been better than ETH. But for example, I said it on the show. I bought Pudgy last week, Pengu, that is. I mean, I bought some little Pudgies too, but I bought Pengu in a more significant size. And I was like, oh, I'm up 10% on that. Oh, I sold my ETH, which is up 20%. So down. And yeah, I'm more happy to play with bigger size in the bigger tokens right now and have my more riskier bets in the stuff like Rect in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, and then play around with the IPOs on the stock side. So I don't want to go back into the meme trenches.
Okay. Sounds good. That's kind of my view as well. Maybe less on the stock side, but just being very intentional with the things we go in on, like farming a bunch of airdrops on Hyperliquid, something like Liminal, Felix. I really like Hyperlend, probably a little bit too. Plasma is obviously one we spoke about a lot at the time. If you want to get excited for the day, Legendary, check what it's trading on pre-markets on Wales market. There's no bigger volume market yet. But I believe, to let people know in the audience, if you're watching look at Legendary's face. If you're, I just told him he was going to get excited, and he's just on screen.
How many tokens are there? Huh? 1 billion tokens?
3.5 to 4
billion tokens.
Billion FTV is what it's trading at. Not a lot of volume though. Not a lot of volume. I think there's like 100K volume, which is actually more than nothing. But I would not say that's a definitive amount. I think what we're probably going to see with Plasma is a Hyperliquid pre-market again. So that'll take some of the speculation out of it, and we'll see what happens there. But being just like hyper intentional about those things, about the things that you go into now, it does feel like you're kind of in a market where just think, just holding ETH the last month, you would have done great. And so I don't know, the speed of rotations and the things that are running are moving very, very fast, and then other things run, and then another sector runs, and then another sector runs. Just feels like you got to pick your spots. I would caution that trying to catch all of them or chasing ones that have already pumped, like you're going to chop yourself up, would be my instinct. So try to stay disciplined, I think, would be my kind of parting reflection in a market that is, everything's kind of just going up at the moment. So you don't want to get wrecked at this point. Anything else from you, Ledge? We run a little bit over. Final thoughts?
No, those were good closing words.
Good stuff. Don't get wrecked. Keep it responsible. We're going to keep getting the invites out to the people who've messaged us who want to be in the Telegram community. We're really, really enjoying that. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcast too. If you want to participate in the Yeet giveaways, which will start one of these days coming soon, you do need to sign up at the referral link. Ledge has dropped that in the Twitter comments, in the YouTube comments. It's in our Telegram too. So do sign up, and we will be back with you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.